slammed on the brakes. The car jerked to a stop. Sacré bleu! Flying forward, she barely stopped herself from smacking into the back of the front seat by throwing her arms out in front of her. What's happening?
A raid, I think.
Peering out through the windshield, Otto clutched the steering wheel with both hands. He was an old man, short and wiry with white hair. She could read tension in every line of his body. In front of the car, washed by the pale moonlight that painted the scene in ghostly shades of gray, the cavalcade that had passed them was now blocking the road. A screech of brakes and the throwing of a shadow across the nearest building had her casting a quick look over her shoulder. Another military truck shuddered to a halt, filling the road behind them, stopping it up like a cork in a bottle. Men, German soldiers, along with the officers of the milice, spilled out of the stopped vehicles. The ones behind swarmed past the Citroën and all rushed toward what Genevieve tentatively identified as an apartment building. 6 stories tall, it squatted, dark and silent, in its own walled garden. "Oh, no," she said. Her fear for herself and Otto subsided, but sympathy for the targets of the raid made her chest feel tight. People who were taken away by the Nazis in the middle of the night seldom came back. The officers banged on the front door.
"Open up! Police!"
It was just after 10 p.m. Until the siren had ripped it apart, the silence blanketing the city had been close to absolute. Thanks to the strictly enforced blackout, the streets were as dark and mysterious as the nearby Seine. It had rained earlier in the day, and before the siren, the big Citroën had been the noisiest thing around, splashing through puddles as they headed back to the Ritz, where she was staying for the duration of her Paris run. If they keep arresting people, soon there will be no one left. Genevieve's gaze locked on a contingent of soldiers spreading out around the building, apparently looking for another way in, or for exits they could block. One rattled a gate of tall iron spikes that led into the brick-walled garden. It didn't open, and he moved on, disappearing around the side of the building. She was able to follow the soldiers' movements by the torches they carried, fitted with slotted covers intended to direct their light downward so as to make them invisible to the Allied air raid pilots, whose increasingly frequent forays over Paris aroused both joy and dread in the city's war-weary citizens. The torches bobbing looked like the erratic flitting of fireflies in the dark.
"They are afraid, and that makes them all the more dangerous."
Otto rolled down his window a crack, the better to hear what was happening as they followed the soldiers' movements. The earthy scent of rain mixed with the faint smell of cigarette smoke, which, thanks to Max's never-ending Gauloise, was a permanent feature of the car. The yellow card that was the pass they needed to be on the streets after curfew, prominently displayed on the windshield, blocked her view of the far side of the building, but she thought soldiers were running that way too.
"They know the Allies are coming. The bombings of the Luftwaffe installations right here in France, the Allied victories on the Eastern Front, they are being backed into a corner. They'll do whatever they must to survive." "Open the door, or we will break it down."
The policeman hammered on the door with his nightstick. The staccato beat echoed through the night. Genevieve shivered, imagining the terror of the people inside. Thin lines of light appeared in the cracks around some of the thick curtains covering the windows up and down the building, as, at a guess, tenants dared to peek out. A woman, old and stooped. There was enough light in the hall behind her to allow Genevieve to see that much. Opened the front door.
"Out of the way!"
She was shoved roughly back inside the building as the police and soldiers stormed in. Her frightened cry changed to a shrill scream that was quickly cut off. Genevieve's mouth